Today's episode is all about surviving red-eye flights. Maybe you've done one, maybe you have one coming up. Lately, most of my adventures have been road trips in my RV, yet some of them involve flying. I've taken at least 8 red-eye flights in the last year, 7 from Hawaii to Montana through Seattle, and then one from Vegas to home in Atlanta. A red eye is a flight that departs at night and arrives in the destination airport in the morning. Red eye flights are too short to get any meaningful amount of sleep, hence the term red eye, resulting from the fatigue. They're generally overnight flights of 7 hours or less, and they're most common going from Hawaii, Alaska, the west coast of the US to the east coast. Red eyes aren't nearly as common in other parts of the world. So, why would someone do a red eye flight? Typically, they're less expensive than daytime flights, and sometimes it's the only one that works with your schedule. For example, I was teaching in Hawaii last fall, and typically the flights from the islands to the mainland are in the morning, right after lunch, or a red eye leaving 10 p.m. or later. The class I teach gets out at 2:30, so the only flights left across the Pacific that day were the red eye flights. Turbulence is also worse during the daytime, so if that's something that adds to your flight anxiety, look into the red eyes. They're also often less crowded, so your chances of having an empty neighboring seat to sprawl into is higher. Yet a lot of my red eyes have been completely full. I think that's mainly because it's such a common route from the islands to the mainland. However, there are flights like every hour from Vegas to the East Coast, so that red eye flight was much less full, and I didn't have someone next to me. So I put my carry on under the seat in front of that empty seat, and I had more legroom for me. Leaving late at night and arriving first thing in the morning means you get a full day at your departure city and a full day at your destination. They're great when you have limited time where you're going and you'd like to make the most of it. And airports and security lines are less crowded at these times, and there's less traffic on the way to the airport as well. Now, there's obvious reasons why most people do not opt for the red eye flight. Some are because people cannot sleep on planes. They either can't get comfortable or it's not their familiar surroundings, and therefore they don't get any rest. Well, whether you get some rest or not, you're probably going to arrive feeling groggy, and it may be a rough first day where you land. And sometimes you land and you cannot check into where you're staying for several hours. Maybe you can drop your stuff off, yet there's no shower or getting into your room yet. There's a 100% chance I will sleep on an overnight flight. Some people prefer to sleep the whole time because that helps them be more refreshed when they land, and others prefer to stay awake the whole time and sleep once they get to their destination. So, here are some of my tips when you're booking a red eye flight. The window seat allows you to lean against it, getting a little bit more comfortable. You also won't have to move when someone else in your row gets up. Extra legroom is always helpful getting comfortable, yet I wasn't able to get any better sleep in first class than I was in Comfort Plus. Maybe you'll have different results, and I don't know if it would be worth the extra money to move up to first class unless it was something given to me through my reward points. Now, Comfort Plus is always going to be better, in my opinion, though, than economy. Some of my non-negotiables that I always have with me for red-eye flights include my travel pillow. Some airlines will count a full-size pillow as a carry-on or a personal item, FYI. So if you already have a small suitcase and a backpack, I wouldn't risk bringing the large pillow. Then you have earplugs or noise-canceling headphones. These are simple and get the job done. On any length flight, I bring my travel blanket. It rolls up to not take up much space in my backpack. Then you have my eye mask to keep out any light, like if my neighbor is reading or their screen is too bright. Okay, this is a unique one. I love my foot hammock. It rolls up, so it's quite compact. And then as you unroll it, this strap goes up and around through the tray table. Even when the tray table is closed, you just pull it down real quick. You connect these two ends, slide it over the table, put your tray table back up for takeoff and taxi. Then this hangs below the seat in front of you and it holds up your feet so you can get a little bit more comfortable position than your feet on the floor. Make sure you wear loose, comfortable clothing and layers. The last thing you want is being stuck sitting in one place for hours, too hot, too cold, too tight, just not comfortable. And I know I just said loose and comfortable, yet the one tight thing I'd recommend wearing are compression socks. I do on all of my flights, daytime and overnight, to help with circulation and reduce the risk of blood clots. Keeping your feet down and unmoving for that long causes swelling and discomfort. Before your red eye flight, don't have any huge meals. It's harder to sleep and it could give you some GI issues and bloating being at that high of altitude for hours with a full tummy. Hydrate really, really well. They say you should drink a cup of water for every hour that you're on a plane. It also helps to moisturize your face and put on lotion, less dry skin and less eye strain. If you're looking to sleep, take melatonin. I would take 5 or 10 milligrams right before boarding. Then, when I'm seated, I pull out my earplugs, I put on my eye mask, my blanket, my foot hammock, and then it is lights out. Do your normal self care routine either in the airport before you board or when you reach altitude and you can get out of your seat. Brush your teeth, wash your face, and take out your contacts. Avoid caffeine and alcohol for hours before your flight. Some people think that alcohol helps them sleep. Well, it could help you fall asleep, yet it prevents you from getting the best quality sleep. Start adjusting to the destination's time zone in advance, especially if it's more than just a few hours. Like start going to bed at a different time, waking at a different time, just so that you're a little bit easier acclimated once you do land. Don't use a lot of bright screens before you board or right after if you plan to rest. The blue light can prevent you from getting proper sleep. And I drink a tea to help me get sleepy. Chamomile, valerian root, and sleepy time are some of the best ones out there. Now, during your flight, if you're planning on sleeping, make sure that your seatbelt is above your blanket or it's visible so the flight attendants don't wake you up during their safety walkthrough. And please be mindful of the people near you. Even if you're not looking to sleep, they probably are. So don't have your overhead light on. You can buy one for around your neck. Or if you're using your screen in front of you, please turn down the brightness a little bit. Now, I love a good airport lounge. The only thing that I am bougie about is air travel. If there is a Delta flight, I am taking it, and you best believe I'm doing the Sky Club or the American Express Centurion Lounge beforehand. I've also taken advantage of being able to use the Sky Clubs after you land from a Delta flight as well. A few of the larger ones like Atlanta, Seattle, LAX, they have showers, and that definitely helps you wake up and feel refreshed after a red eye or any long flight. If you can't sleep on a plane, this is your chance for a movie marathon. Again, I'm a Delta snob, so I'm used to having a screen on my flights. I can imagine the airlines that do long distance and red eyes have screens in those planes as well, or just bring your own. And if you'd like to get your learn on, the Delta Entertainment Studio has master classes on cooking, interior design, leadership, etc. Or just take this opportunity to plan this trip you're on or the next one. Where will you eat? Have you finalized all of your activities? You can always read or listen to podcasts, of course. And I recommend charging your phone, Kindle, iPad, whatever, before the flight or bringing a power bank just in case the charging ports at your seat don't work. I have had that happen a couple times. If you're looking to decompress or sign off from electronics, bring a crossword or Sudoku, or my favorite, a coloring book. That's all for this episode on surviving a red eye flight. I would love to hear your suggestions. Find me on Instagram at the.great.escape.podcast and send me a message. And don't forget to hit subscribe so that you can follow along and dream big for your journeys on the Great Escape. See you next time, adventurers.